How do you tell two 8-year-old twins that the father they pray for every night isn't an angel in heaven, but a living man sitting 10 feet away, laughing over a steak that costs more than their mother spends on groceries in a week? How do you explain that the hero in the faded photograph tucked inside a little boy's jacket isn't watching from the clouds, but sipping whiskey under crystal lights, dressed in a tailored suit, with bodyguards at the door and another child on his lap calling him Dad? And what happens when a lie told to protect innocent hearts suddenly shatters in the middle of a crowded restaurant? Before we begin, if stories about family, sacrifice, and second chances mean something to you, consider subscribing. Because this one, it doesn't just touch the heart. It tests it. Mira Donovan had spent 8 years holding a secret so heavy it bent her spine. To the world, she was just another struggling single mother on the south side of Chicago. 30 years old. Tired eyes. Hands rough from factory shifts and laundromat mornings. A woman who knew exactly how much milk cost and exactly how long $20 had to stretch. To her twins, Lily and Noah, she was everything. But to protect them, she had become a liar. "Daddy is in heaven," she would whisper every night, brushing Lily's curls back from her forehead. "He's watching over us," she'd tell Noah when the boy pressed the wrinkled photograph to his chest like it was armor. It was easier that way. Easier than saying their father hadn't died in a car accident. Easier than explaining that when she was 19, pregnant, terrified, and hopeful, he looked at the positive test, looked at her, and chose wealth and power over diapers and midnight feedings. He hadn't died. He had walked away. And Mira decided that an angel was kinder than a coward. On a Sunday afternoon in September, she tried to give her children something special. It was their 8th birthday. The restaurant wasn't fancy. Just a small Italian place downtown with red checkered tablecloths and a tiny play corner near the back. The kind of place where families went to celebrate when they'd saved a little extra. Mira had saved for 3 months. She ordered 2 plates of pasta and a glass of water for herself. "I'm not hungry," she told the waiter with a soft smile. Lily ran to the play area with her rag doll, the one Mira had stitched from leftover fabric at the factory. Noah followed more slowly, his hand slipping into his jacket pocket, always checking that the photograph was still there. Across the room, sunlight poured through tall windows. That's when it happened. Lily stopped moving. Her doll slipped from her fingers. She stared toward the VIP table near the window. A man in a charcoal 3-piece suit sat there. Expensive watch. Perfect haircut. Bodyguards near the entrance pretending not to watch him. He was laughing. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, sat on his knee, playing with a blue model airplane. A beautiful woman in a silk blouse leaned toward him, smiling. The man lifted his glass. Lily's lips parted. Noah noticed his sister's silence. He followed her gaze. And then he did something that changed everything. He pulled the photograph from his pocket. The picture was old and creased. A younger version of that same man stood beside a 19-year-old Mira, both of them smiling in front of a laundromat sign. Noah lifted the photo, then looked back at the man at the VIP table. Photo. Face. Photo. Face. His small hands began to shake. Lily whispered it first, her voice barely air. "That's Daddy." Noah didn't whisper. His eyes hardened in a way no 8-year-olds should. Before Mira could stand, before she could see what they were seeing, the twins bolted. They ran between tables, knocking over a chair, brushing past a startled waiter. "Lily." "Noah," Mira called, but her voice was already too late. Lily reached him first. She crashed into the man's legs, her tiny arms wrapping around his suit pants like she was afraid he might disappear again. "Daddy," she cried, her voice ringing through the restaurant. "You came back from heaven." The laughter stopped. The music seemed to fade. The little boy on his lap tumbled off in surprise. The woman beside him straightened, her smile vanishing. And the man, Jace Valetti, froze. The whiskey glass trembled in his hand. Then it slipped. It shattered across the marble table. He looked down. Lily's eyes were the same shade of blue as his. The same faint freckle under the left eye. Behind her stood Noah, not crying, not smiling, just staring, holding the photograph up beside Jace's face. The entire restaurant held its breath. "Angels don't eat steak," Noah said quietly. The woman beside Jace leaned in, her voice low but sharp. "Jace, who are these children?" And for a long second, the most powerful wealthy businessman in that room, feared, respected, untouchable, looked like a man cornered by something he had buried 8 years ago. He could have said anything. He could have told the truth. Instead, he did what he had done back then. He chose himself. "I don't know them," he said. Lily blinked up at him, confused. "But Daddy, it's me. It's Lily. Mommy says I have your eyes." That's when Mira reached them. She didn't run. She walked. Each step steady, even though inside her, something ancient and fragile was breaking. She knelt, gently pried Lily's fingers from Jace's suit. "Sweetheart," she whispered, her voice shaking just a little. "We're leaving." "No, Mommy, it's him." Noah didn't argue. He just looked up at Jace one last time. And in a voice too old for his small body, he said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Mom told us you were an angel. I prayed for you every night. I wish you were dead for real." Silence swallowed the room. Mira gathered her children and turned away. But as they walked out of that restaurant, something shifted in the air. Because lies can protect children for a while. But once the truth breaks through, it doesn't go back quietly. And in the parking garage beneath that restaurant, before Mira could even buckle her children into the back seat of her old Honda Civic, footsteps began echoing behind her. The footsteps were fast. Not careful. Not controlled. Mira didn't turn around at first. She opened the back door of the Honda and guided Lily inside, her hands shaking harder than she wanted her children to notice. "It's okay," she whispered, though her own voice felt thin. "Seat belts." Noah climbed in without a word. He didn't cry. He didn't look back toward the elevator doors. He just stared straight ahead, jaw tight, shoulders stiff like a grown man trying to hold something together. Mira was buckling Lily in when she heard his voice. "Mira, wait." It was deeper than she remembered. Rougher. But it carried the same weight that once made her heart skip. She closed the car door slowly before turning. Jace stood a few feet away. Alone. No bodyguards. No wife. No little boy. Just him. The expensive suit looked out of place in the dim concrete garage. A dark stain marked one knee where Lily had clung to him. The crease in his trousers was ruined. His expression was worse. "What the hell just happened up there?" he asked, but the question wasn't angry. It was confused. Shaken. Mira laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "What happened?" she repeated. "What happened is that your children saw you." The word hung between them. "Your..." He flinched. He started, then stopped. "I didn't know." She stepped closer, not aggressively, but with a kind of exhausted courage. "Didn't know?" she said quietly. "You knew I was pregnant. I thought..." His jaw tightened. "I thought you wouldn't keep them." Her breath left her in a slow, trembling exhale. "They were born at 30 weeks, she said, her voice flattening into something steady and sharp. "Noah didn't breathe for 4 minutes, Jace. 4 minutes. I stood outside a glass box watching doctors fight for his lungs to work while I signed papers alone. He didn't speak. I wrote 'Father deceased' on the hospital form," she continued, "because it was easier than writing 'Father walked away.'" The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere in the garage, a car alarm chirped and stopped. I was 19, she went on. 19 with 2 premature babies and hospital bills that looked like phone numbers. I slept in this car one winter. Right here. She tapped the hood of the Honda. Because rent didn't care that my kids needed formula. His eyes dropped to the car as if seeing it for the first time. And you were what? She asked. Building your empire? Signing contracts? Buying steak dinners? I was trying to survive, he shot back, a crack finally forming in his voice. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Mira stared at him, disbelief soft but cutting. You think I don't know pressure? She said. Try choosing between diapers and electricity. Try hearing your kids ask why everyone else has a dad at school events. Try telling them their father is an angel so they don't think they weren't worth staying for. He swallowed hard. Inside the car, Noah shifted slightly. His eyes were on the windshield, but his ears were wide open. I didn't mean for this to happen, Jace said quietly. I never thought we'd run into each other. That's the problem, Mira replied. You never thought about us at all. The words landed heavy. For a moment, neither of them moved. 8 years of silence filled the space between two people who once believed love would save them. I saw his eyes, Jace said finally, almost to himself. The boy, he has my eyes. And my stubbornness, Mira answered, softer now. They both do. There was something fragile in that exchange. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But recognition. He stepped closer, careful, as if she might bolt. Are they okay? He asked. They were, she said. Until today. Lily's muffled sob drifted from the back seat. Mira turned, instinct pulling her attention away from the man in front of her and back to the small world she had built without him. Jace watched her kneel by the car door, speaking gently to their daughter, wiping her tears with the edge of her sleeve. He saw what he had missed. Not the poverty. Not the struggle. The love. It was everywhere. In the way she touched them. In the way Noah leaned slightly toward her without realizing it. In the way Lily reached for her hand even in sleep. I can help, he said when she stood again. Mira let out a breath. That's the first time you've ever said that. I mean it. With what? She asked. Money. If that's what they need. They needed a father. The silence after that felt different. Not explosive. Just honest. He looked at the ground, then back at her. I'm not asking you to forgive me, he said. But they're my kids. They're my life, she answered. And you don't get to walk in and out of that whenever it's convenient. I'm not walking out, he said, and for the first time there was something solid in his tone. Not again. She studied him. Really studied him. The wealthy businessman was still there. The confidence. The power. But beneath it, she saw something else. Regret. And fear. Not fear of losing money. Fear of losing them. Noah suddenly opened the car door and stepped out. Both adults turned. The 8-year-old stood between them, small but unshakable. You lied, he said, looking directly at Jace. Jace crouched down slowly, bringing himself to eye level. I did, he admitted. No excuses. No denial. Just truth. Noah's throat worked as he swallowed. Are you going to lie again? The question wasn't loud. But it was everything. Jace held his son's gaze. No, he said. Not about you. Mira's heart pounded. This was the moment she had feared for years. The crack in the wall she had built. Noah didn't step forward. But he didn't step back either. You hurt my mom, he said quietly. Jace's face tightened. I know. The boy nodded once, as if filing that away. Then he turned and climbed back into the car without another word. Mira looked at Jace. "This doesn't fix anything," she said. "We have court papers coming. And a life that doesn't include you." He nodded slowly. "I'm not here to take them from you." "Good," she replied. "Because you couldn't." She got into the driver's seat and started the engine. The old Honda rattled to life. But before she pulled away, she rolled down the window. "They don't need an angel," she said quietly. "They need someone who shows up." The car began to move. Jace stood there as the taillights faded up the ramp and into the night. For the first time in 8 years, he wasn't thinking about business deals or power plays. He was thinking about a little girl with his eyes, and a little boy who asked him if he would lie again. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure money could fix what he had broken. Above him, the elevator doors opened, and the woman from the restaurant stepped out into the garage, her expression unreadable as she watched him standing there alone. She stopped a few steps away from him. Her heels echoed sharply against the concrete, a sound too polished for a place that smelled like oil and cold cement. The elegance she carried upstairs was still wrapped around her like armor, but her eyes were different now. Focused. Measuring. "Jace," she said evenly, "we need to talk." He didn't look at her right away. His gaze was still fixed on the ramp where the Honda had disappeared. "I'm not in the mood," he replied, his voice flat. "That's unfortunate," she said, "because this isn't optional." He finally turned. Upstairs, she had looked startled. Now she looked controlled, calm in a way that felt deliberate. "Who are they?" she asked. "You heard them. I heard children calling you Daddy. That doesn't answer the question." He ran a hand over his face. For a man used to command, used to certainty, this was unfamiliar ground. "They're mine," he said quietly. Her jaw tightened almost invisibly. "From before?" she pressed. "Yes. And you never mentioned them because—" He let out a slow breath. "Because I thought they weren't kept." She studied him carefully, as if weighing whether that answer was ignorance or excuse. "So you just assumed," she said, and moved on. The words weren't loud, but they carried something sharper than volume. He didn't respond. For a second, something flickered across her face. Hurt, maybe. Or calculation. It was hard to tell. "The little girl," she continued. "She has your eyes." "I know." "And the boy," she added, "he doesn't look at you like a child meeting his father. He looks at you like a man measuring another man." Jace almost smiled at that, but it didn't reach his eyes. "He asked if I'd lie again," he said. "And will you?" He didn't answer right away. "I don't know how to fix this," he admitted. "But I'm not walking away." Her gaze sharpened. "You can't just decide that," she said. "There's a woman involved. A mother. And those children, they're not some business problem you negotiate." He bristled slightly at the word problem. "I know what they are." "Do you?" she challenged softly. "Because you built everything in your life on control. Money. Influence. Power. But kids don't respond to any of that." He looked at her for a long moment. "You're not wrong." Silence stretched between them. "What does this mean?" she asked finally. "It means I have children," he said. "And they've been living without me for 8 years." "And what about us?" He hesitated. Upstairs, there had been crystal glasses and linen napkins. Down here, under harsh lights and echoing ceilings, the contrast between rich and poor felt almost symbolic. "It means things just got complicated," he answered. She nodded slowly, absorbing that. "Complicated," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "Is that what you call it when a little girl throws herself at your legs believing you came back from heaven?" That landed. He looked away again. "You think I enjoyed that?" he said, quieter now. You think that didn't hit me? She folded her arms, not defensive, just steady. I think, she said carefully, that you've never been forced to feel consequences that personal before. He let out a short breath. You don't know everything. Then tell me. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Because how do you explain to someone that 8 years ago you were a young man terrified of losing control? That you convinced yourself it was mercy to disappear? That you chose wealth because you believed poverty would swallow you whole? The garage felt colder suddenly. I can't undo what I did, he said. But I can decide what I do next. Her eyes narrowed slightly. And what is that? I'm going to be in their lives. She held his gaze. You realize that woman will fight you. She should, he replied. She's been doing it alone. That answer surprised her. You respect her? She asked. I owe her. A long pause. And me? She said. He met her eyes. I don't know yet. Honest. Brutal. For the first time, a crack appeared in her composure. This affects my son too, she said, voice tightening just a fraction. He was there tonight. He saw those kids clinging to you. Jace nodded slowly. I know. He calls you Dad. The word hung heavy. I know. And now he has to share that, she continued, with children who existed before him. He swallowed. I didn't plan this. Life rarely follows a plan, she replied. They stood there, two adults shaped by privilege and choice, facing a truth that neither could buy their way out of. Up the ramp, somewhere beyond concrete and steel, a mother was driving home with two children whose world had just cracked open. You're going to see them again, aren't you? She asked. Yes. Without telling me first? Yes. She inhaled slowly, then nodded once. Then at least do one thing right, she said. Don't make promises you can't keep. He thought of Noah's question. Are you going to lie again? No, he said quietly. Not this time. She studied him one last time. Then I suggest, she said, her voice smoothing out again, you prepare yourself. Because poor families don't trust rich men easily. And single mothers, they don't forgive cheap. With that, she turned and walked back toward the elevator. Jace remained where he was. Alone again. But this time, not empty. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. His thumb hovered over the screen for several seconds before he typed a message. Just 4 words. Can we talk tomorrow? He stared at it. Then pressed send. Miles away, in a small apartment where the walls were thin and the kitchen light flickered if you turned it on too fast, Mira's phone buzzed on the counter beside an untouched birthday cake. She was sitting on the floor between her children, Lily's head on her lap, Noah leaning against her shoulder. The vibration made her freeze. She knew that number. She didn't open it right away. Instead, she looked down at her children, at the faith she had protected with a lie, at the truth that had broken through anyway, and slowly, she reached for the phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen for a long second. Lily's breathing was uneven against her lap, soft hiccups of leftover tears. Noah sat stiff beside her, staring at the blank wall like he was trying to memorize it. The phone buzzed again, a reminder that the world outside this small apartment hadn't paused just because theirs had cracked. Mira finally opened the message. Can we talk tomorrow? 4 words. No apology. No explanation. Just a question. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Noah's eyes shifted toward her. Is it him? He asked quietly. She didn't lie this time. Yes. Lily lifted her head, eyes swollen and red. Is Daddy coming? The word still felt strange in the room. Heavy. Fragile. Mira brushed Lily's hair back gently. He wants to talk. Are we in trouble? Lily whispered. That question cut deeper than anything else that night. No, baby, Mira said, pulling both children closer. You didn't do anything wrong. Noah's jaw tightened again. He lied, he said flatly. Mira nodded slowly. Yes. Why? There it was. The question she had dodged for 8 years. She looked at her son, her serious old-souled boy who had carried a photograph like a soldier carries hope, and she chose honesty. Because sometimes grown-ups are scared, she said. And when they're scared, they make bad choices. Was he scared of us? Lily asked. Mira's throat closed for a moment. I think, she said carefully, he was scared of himself. Silence settled over them again. The birthday cake still sat on the small kitchen table. 8 candles untouched, the frosting slightly melting under the weak ceiling light. Noah looked at it. We didn't even sing, he muttered. Mira forced a soft smile. Then let's sing now. She stood, wiping her eyes quickly, and carried the cake to the living room floor. She struck a match and lit the candles one by one. 8 small flames flickered in the dim apartment. For what it's worth, she said softly, you two are the best thing that ever happened to me. Lily leaned against her shoulder. Noah sat straighter, as if accepting that statement like a responsibility. Make a wish, Mira said. Lily closed her eyes instantly. Noah hesitated. Do we still wish about him? He asked quietly. Mira looked at her son, the boy who had once prayed every night for an angel father. You can wish for whatever you want, she replied. They blew out the candles together. Smoke curled upward in thin gray lines. In another part of the city, in a house where lights never flickered and rooms were too big to hear your own heartbeat, Jace sat alone at a long dining table that suddenly felt empty. His phone lay face down in front of him. He didn't expect her to answer immediately. He wasn't even sure she would. For the first time in years, he didn't feel in control of the next move. He leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. Lily's voice echoed in his mind. You came back from heaven. And Noah's. Angels don't eat steak. He let out a humorless breath. Upstairs, the house was quiet. Too quiet. He stood and walked toward the staircase, his steps slower than usual. He paused outside a small bedroom door and listened. Soft breathing. He opened the door gently. The little boy inside was asleep, curled on his side, one hand still wrapped around a blue model airplane. Jace stepped closer. He watched him for a long moment. This child knew him as Dad. Trusted him. Ran to him at the park. Climbed into his lap without hesitation. And now, somewhere across the city, 2 other children were trying to understand why that word hadn't belonged to them. He felt something twist inside his chest. He had divided himself without realizing it. He reached down and adjusted the blanket slightly, careful not to wake him. Nothing changes for you, he whispered under his breath, though he wasn't sure if that was a promise or a plea. Back in the apartment, Mira tucked Lily into bed first. The little girl clutched the rag doll tighter than usual. Mommy, Lily murmured as Mira pulled the blanket up. Yes. If he wasn't an angel, what is he? Mira thought for a second. He's just a man, she answered. And men can learn. Lily's eyes fluttered closed. In the other bed, Noah lay staring at the ceiling. You're going to meet him tomorrow, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Are we coming? She sat on the edge of his bed. I don't know yet. He turned his head toward her. If he lies again, Noah said quietly, I won't listen. Mira nodded. That's fair. Do you still? He hesitated. Do you still love him? The question caught her off guard. Love wasn't something she had allowed herself to think about in years. Survival had taken up too much space. "I loved who he was," she said softly, "before he left. And now—" she brushed her hand over his hair. "Now I don't know who he is." Noah absorbed that in silence. After she turned off the lights, she went back to the kitchen and picked up her phone. She typed slowly. "Tomorrow. 10 a.m. coffee shop on Division. Alone." She stared at the message for a moment. Then she pressed send. Across the city, Jace's phone lit up. He read it once. Then again. Alone. He understood what that meant. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about rights. This was about accountability. He stood, walked to the window, and looked out over the city lights. For years, he had believed power meant never needing anyone. Tonight, he realized the most powerful thing in his life was a little boy asking if he would lie again. And a woman who no longer believed in angels. Morning would come fast. And when it did, the truth wouldn't be hiding behind heaven anymore. It would be sitting across a small coffee table, waiting to be faced. 10 a.m. came with gray skies and a thin autumn chill that slipped through jackets and settled into bones. Mira arrived first. She always did. The coffee shop on Division was small, the kind of place where the paint chipped near the door and the menu board was written in uneven chalk. The smell of roasted beans and warm pastries wrapped around her like something almost comforting. Almost. She chose a table near the window, not for romance, not for nostalgia, but because she liked to see who was walking in. She ordered a small black coffee. No sugar. No cream. She didn't plan on staying long. When the bell above the door chimed, she didn't look up right away. She knew. She felt it. Jace stepped inside without the suit this time. Dark jeans. Plain jacket. No bodyguards waiting outside. No luxury car parked in front like a statement. He looked different. Not smaller. Just stripped of the armor. He saw her immediately. There was no smile, no charm, no practiced confidence. Just a man walking toward a woman he had once promised forever. He sat down across from her. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The coffee machine hissed behind the counter. Someone laughed near the door. Normal life moved around them like this was just another morning. It wasn't. "You came," he said quietly. "You asked," she replied. He nodded once. "Thank you." She didn't respond to that. "What do you want, Jace?" she asked, cutting straight through the air between them. He didn't dodge it. "I want to be in their lives." Her jaw tightened slightly. "That's not how this works," she said. "You don't just wake up and decide to be a father." "I know." "Do you?" she pressed. "Because being a father isn't showing up when it's convenient. It's late-night fevers. It's parent-teacher meetings. It's scraped knees and broken hearts and homework you don't understand." "I missed all of that," he said quietly. "Yes," she answered. "You did." The honesty of it didn't feel like an attack. It felt like truth laid bare. He leaned forward slightly, forearms resting on the table. "I can't go back," he said. "But I can show up now." "For how long?" "As long as they'll let me." "And if it gets messy? If it affects your world, your business, your reputation?" His eyes didn't waver. "Then I deal with that." She studied him carefully. "You think this is about money," she said. "You think because you can pay for better schools or new clothes that it balances the scale." "No," he said immediately. "I don't." "Good," she replied. "Because they don't need rich. They need real." That hung between them. He nodded slowly. "I hurt you," he said. "Yes. I was a coward." She didn't argue. "I thought walking away would protect everyone," he continued. I told myself I wasn't ready, that I'd ruin their lives if I stayed. And instead, she said softly, you left me to ruin alone. He flinched at that. I was 19, she went on, her voice steady but layered with something deeper. I was scared too. But I didn't get the option to disappear. I know. Do you? She asked again. He met her gaze. I saw them yesterday, he said. Really saw them. Noah doesn't look at me like a kid. He looks at me like he's deciding whether I deserve to stand in front of him. He is, she said quietly. And Lily, he paused, his voice tightening. She still believes. Mira's expression softened just a fraction. She wants to, she said. That's who she is. He exhaled slowly. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. Not from you. Not from them. I just want the chance to earn something. Earn what? A place. She took a sip of her coffee, buying herself a second to think. You don't get to replace 8 years, she said. You don't get to step in and call shots. I'm not asking to. Then what are you asking for? He hesitated. Time, he said finally. A chance to prove I won't disappear again. Her eyes held his. And if they reject you? Then I live with that. The answer was simple. Painfully simple. For a moment, the past slipped into the space between them. Laundromat lights, cheap pizza dinners, laughter that didn't worry about tomorrow. She pushed it away. This isn't about us, she said. It's about them. I know. You don't get to confuse them. I won't. You don't get to promise the moon. I won't. She leaned back slightly. And you don't get to undermine me. That one landed deeper than the others. I wouldn't, he said. You raised them. You carried everything. I'm not here to take over. Good, she replied quietly. Because I won't let you. Silence settled again. He looked at her hands wrapped around the coffee cup. The faint roughness along her knuckles. The strength in them. You did good, he said. She didn't smile. I did what I had to. That's more than I did. The words weren't dramatic. They were heavy. She studied him one more time. You can see them, she said finally. His breath caught slightly. But, she added, slow. On their terms. You show up when you say you will. You don't cancel. You don't disappear. And you don't lie. I won't, he said. If you break that, she continued, her voice steady but firm, there won't be another conversation. He nodded. Understood. And one more thing. He waited. They don't need grand gestures, she said. No expensive gifts. No flashy moves. They need consistency. I can do that. She held his gaze. Can you? She asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Because consistency wasn't about strength. It was about discipline. Humility. Showing up when no one clapped for you. I'll learn, he said. She looked down at the table for a second, then back up. Tomorrow after school, she said. You can meet them at the park. 3 p.m. His heartbeat felt louder than the noise in the cafe. I'll be there. You better be. She stood, slipping her jacket on. Mira, he said as she turned to leave. She paused. I don't expect you to trust me, he said. But I won't waste this. She held his eyes for one long second. Don't waste them, she replied. Then she walked out into the gray morning. Jace stayed seated for a moment longer, letting the weight of what had just happened settle in. Tomorrow at 3. Not a courtroom. Not a restaurant. A park bench. A beginning. And as he stepped outside into the cold air, he had no idea that someone had been sitting 2 tables away the entire time, quietly stirring untouched coffee, listening to every word. The spoon in the cup made one last quiet clink. From her seat near the wall, she watched Jace step out into the cold morning air. She didn't follow immediately. She didn't need to. Her expression remained calm, thoughtful. When the door closed behind him, she reached into her purse, pulled out her phone, and typed a short message. "It's moving faster than we thought." She hit send. Then she finished her coffee and left without looking back. 3 o'clock arrived slower than it should have. For Noah, the school day felt endless. He didn't talk much during recess. He didn't laugh when a classmate tripped over a soccer ball. His mind kept circling the same thought. Would he show up? Lily asked twice what time it was. Mira had packed them both a small snack in their backpacks, just in case the meeting stretched longer than expected. She didn't tell them she hadn't eaten lunch. Her stomach was too tight for that anyway. At 2:55, they walked toward the park. The air had that early fall edge, cool but not yet harsh. Leaves scattered across the grass in faded gold and rust. Noah walked slightly ahead, hands in his jacket pockets. Lily held Mira's hand until they reached the gate. Then she let go. He was already there. Not pacing. Not checking his phone. Just sitting on a wooden bench near the playground, elbows resting on his knees, looking nervous. He stood the moment he saw them. For a second, no one moved. The distance between them wasn't far. But it felt like miles. "You're on time," Noah said quietly. Jace nodded. "I said I would be." Lily shifted her weight, eyes wide and uncertain. The park was familiar. Safe. That helped. Mira stayed a step behind them, not interfering, not pushing. This wasn't hers to control anymore. Jace crouched slightly, keeping his hands visible, his posture open. "Hi," he said softly. Lily stared at him. "You don't look like an angel," she said. The words weren't cruel, just honest. A faint, sad smile touched his lips. "I'm not," he replied. Noah folded his arms. "So what are you?" he asked. Jace met his son's gaze. "I'm your father," he said. "If you'll let me be." The simplicity of it settled in the air. Lily stepped forward first. She always had. "Do you live in heaven?" she asked. "No." "Then where?" "Downtown." She frowned slightly. "Is it big?" "Yeah," he admitted. "Is it lonely?" That question caught him off guard. Sometimes children see what adults try to hide. Sometimes, he said honestly. Noah watched every word, every shift in expression. "Why didn't you come before?" he asked. Mira felt her breath tighten. Jace didn't look at her. He answered the boy. "Because I was scared," he said. "Of us." "No," he shook his head. "Of messing up." "You did anyway," Noah said. "Yes," Jace agreed. There was no defense in his tone. Lily looked between them, then tugged lightly at Jace's sleeve. "Are you going to leave again?" she asked. The playground sounds faded in his ears. "No," he said quietly. "Not if you don't tell me to." Noah's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's not how it works," he said. Jace nodded. "You're right." The honesty disarmed them more than any grand speech could have. A group of kids ran past, laughing loudly. Life moved around this small, fragile circle. Jace glanced toward the swings. "Do you want to sit?" he asked. Lily nodded quickly. Noah hesitated, then followed. They walked toward the swing set together. Jace pushed Lily gently at first, testing the distance, the comfort level. She giggled when her feet lifted higher. "Higher," she called. He looked back at Mira briefly. She gave the smallest nod. He pushed again, careful but steady. Noah stood off to the side at first. "Want a turn?" Jace asked. "No," Noah replied. He wasn't ready for that kind of closeness. Instead, he sat on the bench and watched. Watched how Jace moved. Watched if he checked his phone. Watched if his eyes wandered. They didn't. For 20 minutes, Jace stayed present. No calls. No distractions. Just a man pushing a little girl on a swing. When Lily finally slowed, breathless and smiling, she ran back toward Mira. "Mommy, he knows how to push right," she whispered. Mira smiled faintly. "I'm glad." Noah approached slowly. "Do you know how to throw a baseball?" he asked suddenly. Jace blinked once. "Yeah," he said. "A little." Noah pulled a small worn ball from his backpack. "Prove it." There it was. The test. Jace stood up, took the ball carefully. They walked a few feet apart. The first throw was gentle. Noah caught it clean. The second was stronger. Noah adjusted his stance. By the third throw, they had found a rhythm. Back and forth. Simple. Steady. Lily clapped every time the ball hit Noah's glove. Mira watched quietly. This wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't healing. But it was something. After a while, the sun dipped slightly lower. Jace checked his watch only once, and not because he was bored, but because he knew he had promised time. "I have to head back soon," he said. Noah's hand tightened slightly around the ball. "You're leaving," he said flatly. "I have to work," Jace answered. "But I'll be here Saturday morning. 10 a.m. You promise?" "Yes." Noah held his gaze. "Okay," he said. Not warmth. Not acceptance. But okay. Jace looked at Lily. "See you Saturday?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Can we bring cupcakes?" she asked. "If your mom says yes," he replied. All three glanced at Mira. She crossed her arms lightly, pretending to consider. "Maybe," she said. A small smile tugged at Jace's mouth. "Then it's a maybe." He stepped back slowly. "Thank you," he said to Mira, low enough that only she heard. "This isn't for you," she replied quietly. "I know." He turned and walked toward the park gate. Noah didn't call after him. But he didn't look away either. He watched until Jace disappeared around the corner. Then he looked down at the baseball in his hand. "He throws like he means it," Noah said. Mira's heart tightened. "Yes," she answered softly. "He does." As they headed home, none of them noticed the dark sedan parked across the street from the park entrance. Inside, someone lowered a phone slowly from their ear. "He showed up," the voice said quietly. A pause. "Good," came the reply on the other end. "Let him." "Good," came the reply on the other end. "Let him." The call ended. Inside the sedan, the engine stayed off. Windows tinted. Still. But plans were already moving. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear. 10 a.m. This time, Jace was early. He stood by the park gate with a small paper box in his hands. Not flashy. Not from some luxury bakery downtown. Just simple cupcakes from the corner shop on Division, the same one Mira used when she could afford a treat. When Mira and the twins walked up, he didn't wave. He just smiled, soft and unsure. "You made it," Lily said, skipping ahead. "I said I would." Noah checked his watch dramatically. 2 minutes early, he noted. "I'm learning," Jace replied. They spent the morning simple and steady. Cupcakes on a picnic table. Frosting on Lily's nose. Noah pretending not to laugh when Jace got icing on his jacket. No grand speeches. No gifts. Just presents. But across the street, The same sedan sat again. This time, it didn't stay quiet. The engine started. The car rolled forward slowly, stopping near the curb where the kids had left their backpacks. Mira noticed it first. Her instincts had sharpened over 8 hard years. "Stay close," she said softly to Lily. Noah followed her gaze. Jace turned. The sedan's window lowered halfway. A voice came from inside, smooth but edged. "Family reunion looks sweet." Jace's expression changed instantly. Calm, but cold. "Get back," he murmured to Mira. "Who is that?" Noah whispered. "Someone who doesn't matter," Jace said quietly. But the man inside the car wasn't smiling anymore. "Business doesn't pause for park days," he said. "You forget that?" "I said I'd handle it," Jace replied evenly. "Handle it?" The man's eyes flicked toward the children. "Or lose focus?" Noah stepped slightly in front of Lily without thinking. Jace saw it. That small protective stance. And something shifted in him permanently. "Drive," Jace said, his voice low but commanding. The man studied him for a second longer. Then the window rolled up. The sedan pulled away. Silence hung in the air. Mira's heart pounded hard against her ribs. "What was that?" she asked quietly. Jace looked at her. "My past," he said. And it's not going to interfere with them." She didn't speak, but she understood the weight of that promise. Later that afternoon, Jace stood alone in his office downtown. The city skyline stretched wide outside the window. He stared at it for a long moment. All of it had once meant power, control, protection. Now it looked different. It looked like a trade. He picked up his phone and made a call. "I'm out," he said when the line connected. There was silence on the other end. "You don't walk away," the voice replied. "I just did. You'll lose everything." Jace glanced at the framed drawing on his desk. He had asked Lily for a copy. A man standing in the rain with a bandaged arm. Dad with bandages. Not Dad with wings. "Then I'll build something better," he said. He hung up before there was an answer. That evening, he showed up at Mira's apartment. Not with security. Not with an announcement. Just himself. She opened the door slowly. "You're early," she said. "I had something to tell you." She let him inside. The apartment felt smaller than his world, but warmer. The twins sat at the kitchen table doing homework. Noah looked up first. "You said Saturday was park only," he said. "It is," Jace replied. "This isn't park." Lily tilted her head. "Then what is it?" Jace looked at Mira, then back at the kids. "It's a choice," he said. He knelt so he was eye level with them. "I'm changing things," he continued. "The parts of my life that could ever hurt you. I'm done with them." Noah studied him carefully. "Because of us?" he asked. "Yes." Lily's voice was soft. "Does that mean you'll be around more?" "Yes." Mira stepped closer. "You don't owe us that," she said quietly. "I do," he replied. She searched his face for doubt. There wasn't any. "What if it costs you?" she asked. He smiled gently. It already did. The room went still. 4 years, he had chosen wealth over fear, power over responsibility. Now he was choosing something fragile, something human. "I don't need to be an angel," he said softly. "I just need to be here." That was the emotional peak, the line that changed everything. Noah stood up slowly. He walked toward Jace, not rushing, not dramatic, just steady. "You don't get to quit on us," Noah said. "I won't." "You mess this up," Noah added, "and I won't forgive you again." "I understand." Then, for the first time, Noah did something he hadn't done since that restaurant. He stepped forward and hugged him. Not tight, not long, but real. Lily followed instantly, wrapping both of them in her small arms. Mira stood there, watching the three of them. Her heart didn't feel fixed, but it felt lighter. Because faith doesn't come back all at once. It returns in small, ordinary moments. In baseball throws. In cupcakes. In a man walking away from pride for the sake of his children. Months passed. Court papers were adjusted. Schedules were created. Jace showed up. Every time. Parent-teacher nights. School plays. Sick days. He didn't replace the past. He built a future. Slowly. Carefully. The twins stopped asking if he would leave. They started asking what time he'd arrive. And one evening, as the four of them sat on the worn apartment couch eating takeout pizza, Lily looked up and said the words no one expected. "You don't have wings," she said thoughtfully. Jace smiled. "No. But you don't need them." Mira met his eyes across the room. 8 years ago, she had chosen a lie to protect her children. Now she chose truth. Messy. Imperfect. Human truth. Because angels don't eat steak. But fathers can learn to cook dinner. And in the end, wealth couldn't buy redemption. Pride couldn't build family. Only love. Only showing up. Only staying. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing, and tell us in the comments which region you're watching from.